We must keep moving. We must keep going. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl, but by all means, keep moving.
Hey everybody, my name is Yaki Smith, San Antonio native and graduate of both Sam Houston High School and the University of the Incarnate Word. I'm currently a film professor at the University of Texas at Austin and an independent filmmaker whose work has been seen on HBO, Showtime, BET, and so many other networks. Now, as you know, the city of San Antonio hosts the largest Martin Luther King Jr. March in the country, and for years has attracted hundreds of thousands of people from both the local community as well as from across the nation. I myself look forward to the celebration every year because I was either going to march with my church, play with the band, sing with the choir, attend a youth summit, and more than that, I knew I was going to have the opportunity to spend the day hanging with my friends and family. Now, the one thing that always echoes in my mind about the march is this idea that it is a day on and not a day off. A day to build community and a day to strategize how we as a city, state, and nation can keep Dr. King's dream of eradicating injustice, racism, and bigotry alive. Now, I'm standing here above Pittman Sullivan Park, which traditionally is where the march stops and the commemorative program takes place. But as you can see, it's pretty empty, and the faces that you normally see, the songs you traditionally hear, the food you normally eat, and the mission you normally be charged with, well, because of COVID-19, none of that is here. But we're a resilient city, a resilient people, and as they say, the show must go on. Under the guidance of the MLK Commission and with the support of the city of San Antonio, I had the pleasure of directing what I've been calling a cinematic retelling of the march. So those performances that you love so much, you're about to experience them. Those speeches that inspired you, you're about to hear them. And that food you love to eat, well, head over to the kitchen and whip it up so that you don't miss one bit of this beautiful celebration that we've created for you. There's one Dr. King quote that always rings in my head, and that quote is, "The time is always right to do what is right." And during these times of social unrest, the right thing to do is to continue to fight for the sanctity, humanity, and dignity of Black and brown lives, poor lives, working class lives, the lives of those in the LGBTQ+ community, the lives of indigenous peoples whose land we stand on, the lives of our frontline workers who haven't missed a beat during this global pandemic, and ultimately the lives of those unsung heroes who keep this city, state, nation, and global community alive. It was my honor to work alongside this very talented group of creators to produce this film. It was my honor to have been asked to do it, and now it's my honor to share it with you. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and get ready to dance, to sing, to remember, and to ultimately be inspired. Let's go.
But I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over. And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Greetings. I'm Renee Watson, and I serve as chair of the City of San Antonio's Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. 2022 will not see a return to in-person, in-power march. As the City of San Antonio's Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Commission, commemorates Dr. King's life and legacy with its 35th annual march virtually. I must extend my profound thanks to District 2 Council Member Jalen McKee Rodriguez for my reappointment as MLK Commission Chair. While it is with great humility that I accepted this distinction to carry forward as chair, it is likewise with an unrelenting resolve that I take forth the committee's mission, for we still have much work to do. This year, with health and safety being the most important.
Judy Lackridge, Chair, MLK Interfaith Service.
Harold and Mary Moore, co-chairs of the Reefland Committee.
Marlon Davis, Vice Chair of the MLK Commission.
I'm Reverend Dr. Lester James Gillespie. I'm in charge of Outreach and Community.
Mia Morris, MLK Commemorative Program Chair.
Deborah Warner, Youth Event Chair.
Francine Prosser Johnson, MLK Awards Chair.
Russell Aday, Treasurer, MLK Commission.
The year 2020 and 2021 will, for generations, be remembered and studied as a dark and turbulent time in our nation's relatively short history. For 2 years, we have read, listened, and bore witness to never-before-seen devastations, including the loss of life and livelihood by a ravenous disease which cares not for color, creed, nor country. With the emergence of the Omicron variant, we move closer to 850,000 nationally and almost 5,500 in Bexar County, our loved ones taken from us far too soon. This tragedy cannot be downplayed. This tragedy cannot be ignored. But acknowledging this, holding a place in history for this dark time, let us not turn a blind eye to how far we have come as a nation in our fight for equality and equity.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings. Ring with the harmonies of liberty, and let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Forward. Okay. March. Mark time. March. Color guard. Halt.
Dear friends, family, and neighbors, I am Jalen McKee Rodriguez, Councilman for District 2 here in the beautiful, culturally rich city of San Antonio. It is a privilege and honor to welcome you virtually to the 35th annual MLK March. As the largest MLK March in the nation, this event has a long and significant history with ties to civil rights leaders and community members, advocates, and San Antonians of all walks of life. Those who laid the foundation for our march protested the injustices and indignities of our nation's history, challenged and fought a status quo that favored the few and disenfranchised the many, and marched loudly and proudly to ensure that our fights were never silenced. This year, for the second time, to preserve the safety and well-being of our community, we honor this history virtually. 2 days ago, on January 15th, Reverend Dr. King's birthday, the King family launched a protest against restrictive voting laws. This nationwide protest culminates today as we stand in solidarity with the King family, who has called for an end to the celebration of MLK Day until our government can successfully pass voting rights policy. Today, and every day hereafter, we must remember that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s death was not a sacrifice. It was a murder. The path to civil rights was not paved silently with peace and contentment, but with protest, hard-fought victories, and tremendous losses. We cannot afford for these to be in vain. This is not a celebration because we have yet to solidify the victory those before us fought for. The fight continues today, and it will continue tomorrow. And on this day, we remember the life and legacy of a man whose family has received little justice, whose legacy is sugar-coated by our Texas history books, and whose fight is not over. I am honored to join you in that fight, and I thank you for marching with me, virtually, along the way.
Good morning. I'm Mayor Ron Nirenberg. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted nearly every aspect of our lives, and the Martin Luther King Jr. March in 2022 is no different. The MLK March in San Antonio, in its nearly 50-year history, has become one of the largest in the nation and something we look forward to every year on our calendar. I'm proud to continue to stand with you to push for equity and fairness and justice for all, for the tenets of the Martin Luther King Jr. dream, to continue to push to preserve our democracy. Thank you to Renee Watson and the MLK Commission for continuing to keep the flame burning bright, albeit virtually this year. And we stand in memory of Joe Webb and Nate Davis as we continue to march forward for progress.
Hey everybody, it's me, Councilman Jalen again, here from District 2. Right now I'm at MLK Park, where historically we would have started our march. And it's also home to our city's newest public art piece, Spheres of Reflection by artist Caldrick Dow. When you have time, I encourage you to come out and visit the park so you can see it for yourself. But for now, here's a quick video about the project. Caldrick Dow is known in San Antonio for being one of the leading millennial African-American artists, and so to see one of his unique portraits come to life as a sculpture is really an honor, and he truly is a legend in the making.
My name is Caldrick Dow, and I'm the artist behind the Spheres of Reflection.
Spheres of Reflection is a public art piece located in MLK Park in San Antonio. It's a piece that invites visitors to reflect on themes that are common throughout Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches.
It's been a journey coming up with an idea that represents visually what MLK stood for and what he preached. So I started creating a few sketches. There was like 3 different initial sketches that I came up with, and the final one that I decided on was the actual portrait. It aligns with the culture that I try to put in my work.
This is an opportunity for him to expand his portfolio through our collaborative effort, which we call Sketch to Sculpture. We paired him with experts so that he could take this sketch, bring it to life.
I work with portraits in 2D extremely well, but transitioning into something that is being built, there's a lot of steps to it. Hearing the fabricators talk about how we need to make this face, how we need to cut it up, how we need to build each piece, working with the hair. Yeah, I didn't think about the concepts of steel, right? Like what materials that it was going to be made out of. Once I seen the spheres, I mean, they were just over the floor, but it was good to see them put together and knowing where they were going to go. And seeing the face at the fabrication shop was just exciting. Spheres of reflection to me means representation.
So often Black people and people of color as a whole don't get to see ourselves reflected in the world around us, in our leaders, in film, and in all different types of art. And so it's very important that in our communities and outside of our communities, we can see ourselves represented in that art.
Right? How do you capture beauty of the people that I paint, brown people? You know, what colors did I put in the skin tone? How curly do I make the hair? So this piece is about 50% hair, right? So if you look into our culture, we're centered around barbershops and beauty salons, and this is where important conversations go on, right? That connects everybody with their community. The words on the spheres are gonna be 10 words that he commonly used, like bold and brave and unity and accountability, to kind of reinforce the meaning behind the sculpture. It just feels great to be able to see something realized, right? See something that was once in your head, physical for other people to experience and enjoy. And it means something to them.
I think one of the things that makes me most proud of San Antonio, and is a point of pride for a lot of us, is that San Antonio has the largest MLK March in the nation. And when you take your first few steps, this new artwork, Spheres of Reflection, is going to be the first thing that you see.
You know, I'm hoping this is something that people come to as reflection and prayer before the action of walking gets started, and remembering what it was that everyone is about to march for.
This sculpture is not just a memorialization of MLK, but it goes so far beyond that. And it's a catalyst to start a dialogue on the representation of Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Public art is really the identity of a city. It shows where we've been, where we are, and what our hopes are for the future. That's why public art is super important to have in a city like San Antonio, because it represents who we are as a city and where we're going.
And it seems to me that white America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. The other thing is that America freed the slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality, so emancipation for the Negro was really freedom to hunger. It was freedom to the winds and rains of heaven. It was freedom without food to eat or land to cultivate, and therefore it was freedom and famine at the same time.
We've gathered here today to celebrate the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Not only to celebrate his birthday, but to remember what he said. Far more important than that, to engage in the things that he did. And one of the things that Dr. King said is that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Things do matter today. If he were here, he would give an example of what a godly leader does and how he looks. He would welcome the stranger, not build a wall. He would suffer the children to come to him and not put them in cages. He would seek justice and not simply say there's good on both sides. If he were here, he would stand for fairness and not choose might over right. He would be an amazing example of equality and not a champion for inequality. This is the time that tries men's souls. My friends, the battle that wages today is far greater than a battle between two parties. It is the Lord's battle. It's a battle today for morality and simple common decency. It's more than a battle for obedience to the rule of law. Yes, it is a battle for God's law. We're here because he would say enough is enough, and we can't afford to be silent. One of my late mentors, the late Dr. William A. Jones of the Bethany Baptist Church of Brooklyn, New York, would always say, when trumpets are needed, flutes won't suffice. Trumpets are needed today when Black and brown have been disproportionately affected through this pandemic. Trumpets are needed today. When 1 in 6 Americans are on the fear of wondering where their next meal is coming from, trumpets are needed. When those who have always had The security of a home now face homelessness. Trumpets are needed. People are asking today, why is the temperature in the black community risen to such a current height of rage? They ask, and I will tell them why they're angry. They're angry because in 1619 they were chained and brought to the shores of America as chattel. They're angry because they were forced to build a democratic nation without pay. They are angry because after the Emancipation Proclamation, Jim Crow would not allow them to enjoy unrestricted freedom, because after the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed, which gave blacks equal voting rights, the black codes and segregation laws erased most of the freedoms passed by those amendments. They are angry because lynching became the preferred means of black curtailment, because Emmett Till was murdered for allegedly whistling at a white woman. They're angry because Medgar Edwards, the head of the Mississippi NAACP, was murdered in his driveway, because Addie Mae Collins, Denise McNair, Carol Robertson, and Cynthia Wesley were blown to pieces after Sunday school in a Birmingham church. They're angry because James Earl Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Shawerna were murdered and buried in an earthen dam by the KKK, and the murderers were never punished. You want to know why we're angry? They're angry because Dr. King was murdered while fighting for social and equal justice. They're angry because Alton Sterling, Renisha McBride, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Philando Castile, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and too many more were killed by cops or wannabe cops who exercise murderous authority over them. When trumpets are needed, flutes won't suffice.
We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We shall all be free. Yes, we shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I still believe that we shall all be free someday. And we'll walk hand in hand, I believe. We'll walk hand in hand.
God has had enough of this insolence. He's had enough of indifference. He's had enough of inequity and inequality. God, I say, has had enough of tweeted irrelevancy and human immaturity. He's had enough of hearts that lack charity and condone racial atrocity. God has had enough of autocratic extremity and man-made supremacy. God has had enough of governmental irresponsibility by an obstinate majority. We're here because we're joining in the words of Dr. King. Enough is enough, because God shall break the pieces of the oppressor. He shall call the righteous to the front lines. He shall call the godly to action, the chosen to their sacred work. He shall call the ordained to their prophetic task, the anointed to their mission fields, the empowered to service, because enough is enough. Our lives begin to end when we become silent about the things that matter.
That we shall overcome someday.
Autumn Always, after Dinez Smith. Every day we are blessed autumn sun rays, painting our purple skin a blanket of hope. A crisp breeze kissed us melanated, magical even, daring of us to be nothing but authentic, grateful still. Every weekend we get summer for 3 days, 52 weeks a year, no seasonal depression. We grow up never knowing natural disasters. We do not see red or blue. We are violet folk, relishing the blend, branches making pinky promise kisses to see every difference as an honorable distinction. I am in elbows over how much we love and love to love, all daps and high fives, a hand slap and a clap on the back. We collect bookshelves of laughter, pull out our favorites, share them like gossip. Hear a bellowing cackle, a vamping chuckle, a fluttering giggle are airborne like Jordan, way more contagious than a virus. We call every neighborhood our barrio, with a panaderia every other block, or a tamale vendor, or a soul food truck, or a seafood boil, or a burger joint, or a wing stand. The point being, it smells like full bellies in our barrios. In our eternal autumn, the South is remembered for the kind of food that make you want to slap somebody. These horizons never cradled the sediments of the dead. Our flesh was never fertilizer for tomorrow's harvest. Our blues were always just hues of dawn's departure. The ember-basted trees know no sorrow, bear no strange fruit. All that hangs from their empathic limbs are tire swings. Indigo children are jazz notes without bars, unburdened by staffs, keys, or expectations, and perfect. Manicured acrylics never get chipped over gendered norms because the norm is undefinable when every child is allowed to decide their plumage for their damn selves. Here, Breonna Taylor is a cardiovascular surgeon. Here, Sandra Bland is a cello-playing music teacher. Here, Emmett Till solos piccolo at the Lincoln Center. Here, Lincoln is remembered mostly for his stylish fashion choices and wasn't assassinated. Harvey Milk wasn't assassinated. Che Guevara wasn't assassinated. Malcolm X wasn't assassinated. Mahatma Gandhi wasn't assassinated. MLK wasn't assassinated. Their names never harbored in the catacombs of our throat, never grew legacies from tombstones, never needed to be remembered for their sacrifice. This is where every day is Independence Day, because everyone has always been free. No need for Hispanic Heritage Month, we just have heritage. No Black History Month, because Black history is American history. Here, there is no tolerance for intolerance, and the only thing alternative is music. This world does not have triggered fingers, and bullets never make crimson dresses out of innocent bodies. The only scarlet stains on our streets are where pomegranate juice slips with such unceremonious splendor out of the mouths of boys that never learned to pose for chalk lines. 12 is just a number, just another name for the dozens. But in this world, we battle to see who got the best compliments, aggressively trying to find new ways to honor each other. Your mama's so fine, your mama's cooking so good, your brain so bright, looks like NASA found a new star. This is where there are no cops. There are no cops. There are no cops, no need for cops when we have stern-looking fathers with raised eyebrows on every stoop. Ominously bedazzled chunk glass scattered everywhere, warnings of swift judgment. We were all raised right. I am only policed by my mother, and every mother lives to be at least 93. Always see their children grow up. They are not funneled through pipelines. Every city is enriched with clean drinking water. No one has access to Dakota because sacred lands are sacred, period. Do you see the beauty of our autumn? Where there are no kids in cages because it never occurred to anyone to cage those of us that are the most free. There are no refugees because there is no need for refuge. There is no border crisis because there is no border. New worlds were never discovered. This is where we share in what has always been here. The land belongs to no one because we do not know how to claim anything but this joy. This joy is radiant, chaotic, and catching. The sun shines on everyone equally. The clouds do not discriminate where the life-bringing rains fall, and the moon is always full. This is where no one is scared to walk home alone in the lavender of night. Here, our plum skin is seen for the royalty we are. Here they ask, here they respect, here they walk away when we say no. Here we say no without fear. Here our body is our body, and nobody gets to let their lies or laws live in this lobby. We are free to be the celebration, live the glorious gift of today, because here no one becomes a hashtag. Hashtag is just another word for pound sign, not a prefix for the names of innocent darlings that die too soon. Here, no one dies too soon. When we die, no one dies too soon. When we die in our sleep, surrounded by our loved ones, a noble right to seed our souls, our bodies, fade into the welcoming dusk. Marry the sunset. We are at once nowhere and everywhere. And every memory of us feels the blood of every person we have ever touched. We do not fear death because we have never known loss. Here, we are the dream. Here, we wake up knowing we gonna be all right.
Give us the ballot, and we will fill our legislative halls with men of goodwill and send to the sacred halls of Congress men who will not sign a Southern manifesto because of their devotion to the manifesto of justice.
Hello, my name is Claudia Sanchez. I'm a local activist here in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm here today to talk about voting rights and the importance of voting in our community. I was one of the 100 students that was selected across the nation to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. At that event, I got an opportunity to meet the freedom riders that put their lives in danger so that that bill could pass. Some of the freedom riders are Deanne Diamond, Reginald Green, Dory Latner, Joan Mulholland, John Moody, Charles Person, and Hank Thomas. There were some of the young people that were there in the freedom rides putting their lives at danger so that people across the nation would have the right to vote. A lot of them were African Americans, but a lot of them were also minorities, women, people that are currently still fighting for their rights. And that's why we're asking people to go out and vote, to get registered to vote in the community, wherever they're at, so that they can have their voices be heard. We still have issues in voting, such as with the redistricting cases we have at court. We still have issues with immigration. We're trying to pass comprehensive immigration reform for 8 million people across the nation. We still have issues in housing, in labor, in healthcare, across the board. There's so many issues at stake for this upcoming election in March. Wherever you're at, we're asking people to please go register and vote and have your voices be heard. Thank you.
I'm Valerie Reifert, Executive Director of Radical Registrars. Our mission is to empower, engage, and educate voters through civic education and voter mobilization across Central Texas. Our vision is to create a generation of informed and empowered young BIPOC LGBTQ+ folks who vote every single election. Texas ranks 49th worst state when it comes to voter turnout in America. In 2020, though, Texans showed up at record numbers the state hadn't seen in over 30 years. Over 10 million Texans voted in 2020. Well, in 2021, Texas lawmakers made laws making it harder and less accessible to vote, especially affecting communities of color, elderly, and the disabled communities as well. Well, in 2022, it is our opportunity to vote those people out of office and get people in there who look like us, think like us, and want the same things for us. In 2022, it's time to get registered and get out and vote.
My name is Camilla Factory. I'm the Executive Director of Black Freedom Factory, an organization dedicated to data-driven activism, communal advocacy, and alleviating racial inequity throughout the city of San Antonio. It is imperative that we vote because our political autonomy relies on the future of our democracy. Our ancestors marched and were incarcerated for our ability to vote. Our communities thrive on accountability and holding politicians accountable for the promises that they make to our community. Do not take lightly the right to vote as an American citizen, seeing as our political autonomy relies on the past, present, and future of democracy.
Hi, I'm Al Alford, the commander of Fred Brock, American Legion Post 828. We are gathered to honor Dr. King, who has made possible the kind of coalition that we see today that's involved in what we're trying to do. We have, as well as frontline workers, we have individuals from the grocery industry, we have our nurses, we also, in addition, we have other first responders that are involved in this process. In addition, we also have with us the Masons, and they are celebrating their 100th anniversary this year. We have Fred Brock American Legion Post itself and the veterans assigned to Fred Brock American Legion Post, and we've been in this community, supporting this community for 74 years. And the actions of Dr. King has made possible the coalition of a group like you see assembled here today, involved in celebrating the things that we do involved in our community.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Shirley Davis. I am a family nurse practitioner, and I am also the president of the original San Antonio Black Nurses Association. In our organization, we have LVNs, we have RNs, we have also those who work with children in pediatrics, OB, mental illness, providing nursing to the community.
There comes a time when silence is betrayal.
We're here to celebrate and commemorate the birth, the life, and the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That was a quote that King uttered some time ago. He said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." There's a certain way we expect our enemies to treat us. We don't expect our enemies to have favorable relationships with us. We don't expect for them to be kind to us. We expect for them to hurl insulting words at us, but that's not the expectation we have of a friend. Our friends ought to support us. They ought not remain silent in the struggles that we're facing. We're looking forward to friends being supportive in this battle against all types of social, economical, racial injustices. We expect for them not to be silent, but we want them to speak up. Even in whatever vocation you're in, I expect for every Anglo pastor to speak up against injustices. I expect for the Hispanic pastor to speak against injustices, and even us as African American or black pastors, we have to speak up and speak out boldly against all of the injustices of today. We're in the midst of some trying times, and the only way we're going to overcome this, to make America truly a great America, is not to remain silent, but to speak up, speak out, be bold, be courageous. And King says, in the end, we won't remember the words of our enemies. They're not going to matter. But the silence of our friends is going to be with us for a lifetime.
HEB was founded on the unwavering belief that each and every person counts. Through our Be the Change initiative, HEB pledges to do our part to advance education, equity, and inclusion across our great state by being a better employer, retailer, and community partner. To amplify diverse voices, we are proudly highlighting partner stories, community initiatives, and featured suppliers throughout our stores. We believe that real change is rooted in action, and together we can create real change.
Certainly, Dr. King was interested in the decency of labor for all people, a fair wage for all people, decency for mankind as reflected in labor. Dr. King fought hard for free labor, for equalization, freedom of all men.
I will always remember in 1986, I was mayor of the city, and we were listening to the national conversation about Dr. Martin Luther King Day. And there was a group in San Antonio beginning to talk about trying to organize something. It was very small, led by Reverend R.A. Callies, a real representative of the community. I mean, a human being who lived the east side of San Antonio and the African American experience. And he came to me and he said, we want to do something larger. And it just made all the sense in the world to me. And so we created a commission, had the good fortune of getting a woman, Aranetta Pierce, to be the first chair of the commission. And if you want somebody to do something, you want somebody like Aranetta. And she has breathed life into something that has had great resonance. We're standing on the spot that's one of my favorite spots in the annual Martin Luther King March. I love this spot because it's on a hill, and as you look back, when you see the crowd assembled, you understand the crowd estimates of 100,000 people. It's hard to get a feel for what 100,000 people look like until you stand on this hill and look backward every Martin Luther King Day. But it's an amazing thing. We've come from Dr. Callies and a band of about 6 followers to 100,000 people every Martin Luther King Day. I've often asked myself, and I've been asked, why San Antonio? Why does San Antonio have the largest Martin Luther King March in America? Why not Detroit? Why not Atlanta? Why not Washington? And it's a hard question to answer because the African American population here is less than 10% of the population of the city. So why San Antonio? I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is San Antonio is a city that's dedicated to civil rights and progressive causes. We see that time and again. And therefore has a strong relationship, has learned from San Antonio's African American community. It's a long history of great contributions and great leadership and great sacrifices, and the community appreciates that and wants to be associated with Dr. Martin Luther King Day on the east side of San Antonio.
My name is Mario Marcel Salas, former city councilman for District 2, professor, University of Texas. Some of the first marches took place when Martin Luther King was still alive. The Selma to Montgomery March, which King was on, Bloody Sunday, San Antonio supported him while he was still alive. Years later, there was another march by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee from Pittman Sullivan Park to Mount Zion First Baptist Church. And then around 1978 or so, a lot of community organizations joined the march, which was very small at the time, but once the community got involved, it became one of the largest marches in the country.
We started this march to continue the legacy of Dr. King, because Dr. King was a person who fought for voting rights and civil rights and for jobs and to keep those opportunities going. So this march was started to continue that legacy.
Well, we felt real good about how it grew because we spent a lot of time organizing the community to join the march because the action to organize it just wasn't taking place. So after we got together with a bunch of different organizations and leaders, then we filled the streets up with as many people as possible. I think it's very important that people be involved in the march because we're talking about social justice. And the idea that the march is a parade is simply not true. Martin Luther King didn't march for parades. He marched for social justice, and that's what we are doing today.
I think if Dr. King was alive today, he would be talking about police reform. He would be talking about making sure that Black lives matter and that we continue to go forth to bring a better quality of life to the citizens of this nation.
And so San Antonio has kept that idea alive, that social justice must be addressed, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's jobs, whether it's helping poor people. Those are the social issues that must remain in the forefront.
It's an exhilarating feeling. It's a good feeling when you can look back and you see thousands and thousands of people who have become part of this largest march in the world and continue to bring the issues. As long as you continue to bring the issues, the march will grow and it will get better.
It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
Look, black man, you a king in my eyes. All praises to you. Yeah, you're more than a man. You're something greater. The beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega. And to my Nubian queens, the mother of creation. Never limit yourself to that small imagination. It ain't nothing like a black woman so amazing. Yeah, the black of the berry, you the key to greatness. And don't forget the power lies within your melanin. And don't believe them lies that they telling you. Yeah, this is for Trayvon, Sandra, and Eric them. Yeah, look, welcome to America. I can never lie in the skin that I'm better in. Make sure it's a crown on my head when they bury me. I can hear the sounds of the horns of my chariot. My melanin, I cherish it. My blackness is heaven sent. Yeah, look, black man, black man. Yeah, black man, black man. King in my eyes, way more than a man. You so much more than a man. I understand that pain you hide beneath the surface. I hide that same pain beneath the surface. In this world, we just trying to find our purpose. Just know that if you black, then you perfect.
My name is Nova Cooper Jr. My son's name is Norman Cooper. He was killed 5 years ago, and we have been seeking justice for him. What happened is that he came to our home. He was staying there with us. We had 2 rookie police officers that came there. They actually tased him 9 times.
My name is Melissa Wicker, the daughter of Daryl Zamald Sr., who was murdered September 15th of 2020. My father was a loving man, married to my mother of 35 years after she passed on Thanksgiving Day 2016. He was incredible to the community. He loved everyone, and everyone loved him.
I'm talking about that old school. Real wood, real big console, off in the living room, over at your granny crib, with the little TV on it where your auntie live. Yeah, that one. With your uncle riding around in the Cadillac, looking fresh, looking clean in the Cadillac. All the kids running around like they done lost their mind, and now your uncle yelling at them with a cup of yak. Potato salad and mac, car show in the front, barbecue in the back. See the dominoes and spades as a matter of fact. And then your people talking about he gon' be right back. And you like, yo, where you fixin' to go? Hold on, homeboy, cause I'm ready to stroll. Matter of fact, Big Mama needs some ice from the stove. And one more thing I gotta mention.
My family and I are seeking justice for my father, who was murdered in the front of his yard.
So we dropping the top. Flipping upon our mission, coming up to the stop. Looking up in the mirror and see the lights of a cop. We gotta stop whether we like it or not. No warrants, insurance good, 5 minutes we out. The cop asked Lil Bro for his license. When he reached for his wallet, all I heard was a
shot.
It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
Blinded by the gleam of my melanin, or the light of gems embedded in my diadem. There is an emancipated glory beaming bright as orbs jettisoned from beneath my skin. I am still forged from beauty even when I'm struggling. They can never purge our virtue by any means of degradation. I believe my change gon' come, no matter the situation. I believe my change gon' come, no matter the situation.
My name is Deborah Bush, and I'm the aunt of Marquise Jones, who was killed in February 28, 2014. As a result of his murder, I've become an activist here in San Antonio. We are the only families that have stood up against the city to fight the atrocities that the police department has inflicted on our families. We're tired, we're done, and we're not taking any more.
My name is Jolene Josie Garcia, leader of Reliable Revolutionaries, a community-led civil rights organization that fights against police brutality and racial and systemic injustices within our community. We take protest to policy by engaging millennials and young people to vote and use their voice. We change the policies that the lawmakers we put into power aren't upholding. No justice, no peace. We will continue to fight until there's equality for all of us.
My name is Ernest Martinez, chairman of the Cesar E. Chavez Legacy and Educational Foundation. And on behalf of the organization, we stand with Dr. King. We honor Dr. King. On August 28, 1963, he delivered the speeches of all speeches. And within that I Have a Dream speech, he said, now is the time to lift our nation out of the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Dr. King, like Cesar Chavez, embodied that spirit of unity. He was the major spark that led that effort to the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
My name is Ananda Thomas. I'm the Deputy Director for Fix SAPD. As the great Dr. King said, since we know the system will not change the rules, we will have to change the system. But we must do this together. I implore everyone to get involved, take action, take part in this movement. Let's change the system together.
Viva Dr. King!
Viva!
Hi, I'm Abhived Pulapaka.
And I'm Avery Neal, and we're the co-founders of Race Ed SA, sponsored by the San Antonio African American Community Archive Museum and Google Fiber.
Our organization began after witnessing the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, where Avery and I chose to stop feeling helpless and step off the sidelines to continue to push towards equality, with an aim to produce racially conscious educational material. Having witnessed discrimination within our neighborhoods, we began to work with community leaders to shape a pedagogy that highlighted what many were choosing to omit.
We wanted to have the conversations no one else was having. Race Ed SA's goal is to stop racism at its roots. This means we connect with ages 5 through 18 to educate them on racism, addressing the underlying biases that continue to be the cause of racial violence. We hold monthly webinars and have the honor to speak to specialists in areas such as stereotyping, allyship, and cultural celebration. We recently held our first workshop where hundreds of people from all ages and backgrounds came together and had difficult but necessary discussions.
Through lessons in leadership, community organization, and most importantly, resilience in the face of adversity, Dr. King taught students like Avery and I to feel empowered to voice our opinions and generate conversations when injustice is around us, creating an equitable future one action at a time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for sustaining Dr. King's voice against discrimination. May we never forget Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and what he accomplished.
Dad was a very loving man, very caring, always giving, gave from his heart.
My name is Charles Hood, Fire Chief of the San Antonio Fire Department. I am proud to be a part of the MLK celebration. Dr. King talked about faith. He talked about hope. And more importantly, he talked about courage. Those are the things that are critical to us surviving in this city every single day. Being a fire chief and being one of several fire chiefs that are African American in major cities across this country gives me great pride. Our department is diverse. We mirror the citizens that we serve. It is important for us to remember this March. COVID has caused us to separate. COVID has caused us to distance. But we understand this is temporary, so we must be resilient. We must have hope, because without hope, nothing is done. We must have faith. You have to take a step and not worry about the staircase being there. These are quotes from Dr. King. We celebrate his legacy. We celebrate his life. The San Antonio Fire Department is here to protect this historically significant city. Thank you, Dr. King.
Hi, I'm Bill McManus. I'm the police chief here in San Antonio, and I'd like to share with you a little bit of personal thought about MLK that I took from the letter from the Birmingham jail. Actually, we studied that when I was in school, and the impact of that letter gives you a very, very clear understanding of where Martin Luther King Jr. was coming from. His message today is probably more important than ever. And if you would have told me that the march this year was going to be canceled, I never would have believed you. Martin Luther King's message against segregation and racism must be heard, and it must continue. And it's important in law enforcement today more than ever. And as police chief here in San Antonio, that message is most important to everything we do and everyone we deal with. Equality, social justice, it's all encompassed in what we do every day on the street.
I'm Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar. The reason that it's so important that we celebrate Dr. King's legacy is because while his presence was so much larger than life, always clean, always polished, always professional, and the epitome of a gentleman with that loud, booming voice of his, with that distinctive vibrato, you always knew exactly what it was that he was demanding. He wasn't asking, he was demanding. But nonetheless, he was doing it in such a way that left us all in awe. And so while during his lifetime, he made so many undeniable strides in making his dream come to fruition, clearly we still have some work to do in this country. And his dream transcends time. It transcends life and death even. And so while he's no longer physically here to carry on that legacy, we are here, and it's our job. It's incumbent upon us to continue that movement forward.
My name is Officer Williams with the San Antonio Police Department. I'm also the president of the San Antonio Black Police Officers Coalition. The San Antonio Black Police Officers Coalition ensures that we bridge the gap between the community and the police officers by ensuring that the community sees officers of the same ethnicity and neighborhood background. We attempt to insert ourselves in the community and have these conversations with the community so that not only can they understand where they are coming from, where we are coming from too. The Martin Luther King March means more to me than just a dream. It is my reality. I get to live every day. And I would like to thank Dr. Martin Luther King for stating that dream because it gives me the motivation I need to continue to be the best person that I can be.
Hi, I'm David McCary, Assistant City Manager for the City of San Antonio. As we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I thought it'd be important to remind each and every one of us at this day and time about two individuals, Echo Cole and Robert Walker. You see, these were two sanitation workers who was trying to get out of the cold, inclement weather conditions. On February the 1st, 1968, during a rainstorm, they had to seek shelter in the back of the garbage truck in the hopper area. But we wanted y'all to know and be reminded that these two heroes actually gave their life on behalf of other sanitation workers. As a result, over 1,300 sanitation workers went on strike in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the time was called out in support of the sanitation workers there. And April the 4th, unfortunately, we lost our Dr. Martin Luther King because he was assassinated there in Memphis, Tennessee. So we just wanted to send a reminder as we celebrate today the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. God bless.
My name is Linda Chavez Thompson. I'm the Executive Vice President Emerita of the National AFL-CIO. I started in the labor movement in December of 1967. Since that time, I have spent my life working for the rights of working people. Dr. Martin Luther King literally gave his life to defend not just civil rights, not just human rights, but workers' rights as well. My union, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, represented the garbage collectors in Memphis, Tennessee. Those workers literally did not have equipment to do the garbage collection. Many of them did not get paid for the work that they did. Dr. King stood for them. One of the things that we admire the most about Dr. King is that any violation of the human rights or the worker rights of people, he would stand. The American labor movement calls him an icon and a brother, because that is what we call people who believe in the same things that we believe in. Time and time again, I can remember the marches that we made and the kind of people that Dr. King brought to the table. I know for sure that when he stood up and wanted to march on Washington, D.C., the American labor movement said, let's do it. Time and time again, he stood for us. We decided as a labor movement to pay for the buses to bring thousands of people to Washington, D.C. to show that the abuse of people and their rights, whether they be workers, civil rights, black, brown, purple, polka dot, whatever color you are, it makes no difference. Dr. King stood up for us. Dr. King lost his life standing up for us. We have to do the same because the fight continues. The disadvantages for many people are still there. And I proudly can say that I marched with Dr. King, and I'm proud. I'm very proud that I was one of those many thousands of people who got to meet him.
Hi, my name is Mary Finger. I'm a retired international vice president from the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. Labor and civil rights have been partners since 1935 when A. Philip Randolph brought the Sleeping Porter Union into the AFL. In 1963, when the March on Washington took place, A. Philip Randolph and Byron Rustin labor union and activists worked together to bring union members to Washington, D.C. In 1968, when Martin Luther King went to Memphis, we realized that we needed the vote, but we also needed money. We need our members to have a decent living so that they can send their kids to college, so that they can buy homes, and so that they can participate in the American dream. We fought for the 5-day work week, the 8-hour day. We fought for vacations, health care, and all that the American public enjoy, whether they're union or not. We are two movements, one goal.
My name is Michael Edwards. I'm a lifelong resident of San Antonio and the president of the San Antonio chapter of the Coalition of Black Trade Unions. When I think about what Dr. King and his legacy means to me, I think about my grandparents working to save and lend money to others to pay for poll taxes so they could vote. And when they voted, they wore their Sunday's best. As a union member, I deeply connect with the struggles of the garbage workers and their unified voice to become unionized. Dr. King knew that his presence would elevate this battle. Little did we know that this moment in history would forever change countless lives and bring the power of the people front and center. As time has moved forward, we remember the struggle of the great fearless leaders like Mandela, Desmond Tutu, John Lewis, and the great Dr. King. It is in their honor that we must continue to fight to pass important laws like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Voter Protection Act. Our fathers, mothers, and grandparents died and paid so that we could vote, and all have to do this and safeguard and protect our constitutional right to vote. So many have given so that we can pull that lever and vote, vote, vote.
I'm Jeffrey Arndt, the president and CEO of VIA Metropolitan Transit, and behind me you see a 1966 bus that reminds us in many ways that the civil rights movement started on a bus, not in 1966, but rather on December 1st, 1955, when Rosa Parks decided if she paid the fare, she should be able to sit anywhere. And thank goodness for that great act of bravery. Transit has always played a part throughout history in this manner, and VIA plays a part in continuing the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King. We exist for one purpose, and that is to get people to connections to make their lives better. Whether that's work, or doctor, or training, or school, we are all about improving the quality of life. In this year of the pandemic, VIA has taken extraordinary steps to ensure the safety and well-being of our customers and our heroes, the VIA heroes, the operators and the mechanics that make sure that people have access to their jobs, to their medical treatment, to their training, to their schooling during these difficult times, as well as people who simply need access to a pharmacy or a supermarket. We are proud to continue in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King, equality and access to opportunity for everyone. And so I say, Viva Martin Luther King Day, Viva VIA.
I'm Bexar County Commissioner Tommy Calvert of Precinct 4. And it's my honor to live in a city that has the largest Martin Luther King March in the country. I give my father, who was the organizer in 1978, a lot of credit for that. What he did was he moved the march around every part of town so that everybody understood that this isn't just for black people, but this march is for everybody, and the community took ownership. And truly, you know, San Antonio has been a city that lives in apartheid. You have a situation where the majority-minority community really isn't in charge of the economic prosperity of our community, nor are they in charge of the political power in this community. We need to be putting more resources into helping our future generation at a time that they've had difficulty getting connected to the internet, at a time that they've had no opportunities for summer jobs. We need to be putting our arms around our young people. These are the kinds of things that we have to march for. These are the kinds of things that Dr. King said that we cannot be comfortable and have our future generation suffer as a result.
The San Antonio MLK March has been a tremendous model for the United States. This march symbolizes the unity of our community and is a symbol of a city and a group of united people. As county judge, I'm mindful of Dr. King's statement. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. San Antonians have stood up during this very, very difficult year as we face the tremendous damage done to us by COVID. Thank all of you for looking out for each other, and wish all of you a much better year next year.
Dr. King's legacy is the very reason why I am blessed to identify myself as Catherine Brown, your first female African American constable here in Bexar County. I will forever be grateful for Dr. King's sacrifice and service to our nation. To each and every one of you out there, have an awesome and safe Dr. King Day.
From a content point of view, the issues are inextricably tied together. In the final analysis, there can be no peace without justice, and there can be no justice without peace.
In these divisive and brutally racist times, we cannot afford to be silent, especially as pastors, as priests, as bishops, rabbis, and ministers, and the like. As diverse as we are in our doctrine, there must be a moral compass. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. leaves us a treasure trove of initiatives and encouragements and examples that cross social, economical, racial, religious boundaries. No better time such as this to echo Dr. King's words from a speech in the year of 1967, April the 15th, as he mobilized the end of the Vietnam War. He uses a bully pulpit to address the sin of neutrality. The hottest place in hell, he says, are reserved for those who, in periods of moral crisis, maintain neutrality. Dr. King, a black Baptist preacher who refused to be intimidated by the faces of any who opposed preaching against amoral leadership and followers of these hateful and inhumane movements. We all as human beings should follow the lead of our Christ. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Martin King was assassinated because he said something. John Lewis said to us after the Bloody Sunday, he says, say something. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the innocent blood of many brown and black and other minorities say to us, we cannot remain neutral. Not just black pulpits, but white, brown, and every pulpit. Not just black elected officials, but all elected officials.
Hold me accountable for it, because I'm the mayor of this goddamn city, and we're gonna make change together, okay?
We have to strategize and then mobilize so we can characterize the attitude of Dr. Martin Luther King.
When we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We must get together as brothers and sisters and live as one in this society.
We are swiftly moving toward self-annihilation. Your generation must speak out with righteous indignation against the forces which are seeking to destroy us.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Kemp. I am the Minister of Children, Youth, and Young Adults at the Antioch Missionary Baptist Church. I'm so excited to just talk a little bit about what it means to me to be a part of Martin Luther King's dream and the march that we have here in San Antonio. One of the greatest things about the Civil Rights Movement is that it wasn't restricted just to a few people. The Civil Rights Movement was an impactful respected by so many. And I'm especially excited about the women who played such a huge role in being a part of the civil rights movement. People like Fannie Lou Hamer and Mahalia Jackson and so many others. One of the women that really inspires me, her name is Prathia Hall. Prathia Hall is a preacher. She was a Baptist minister. She was a member of SNCC and the SCLC. Back in September 1962, she was at a service commemorating a church that was recently bombed. MLK was actually in the audience. She began to pray about her vision for what our community could look like. She prayed and she would repeatedly say, "I have a dream. I have a dream, God. I have a dream." They say that was the night that Dr. King was inspired by her words to start preaching about having a dream. Listen, I don't know about you, but I desire so much for our community, our world, our nation, to be a part of Dr. King's dream, for that dream to come into fruition. And I see it happening. I do. Look, I don't know what the future holds. We have a whole lot of things that are up against us. Coronavirus, racial injustice, economic injustice, gender bias, bias against people's sexualities and orientations. But I just believe if we really hold on to Dr. King's dream, if we really take that on and make that a part of our belief system, that eventually we will overcome. We'll become more like the community that so many fought for, bled, and even died for. We'll be more like what Dr. King talked about when he said, "I have a dream. I believe it."
My name is Aaliyah Lavender Jewell.
Hi, my name is Elena Jewell. I am 9 years old. I went to Harmon Elementary School.
My name is Temperance. I'm 10. I go to Ideas School.
I'm Sasha Harris. I'm 10 years old. I go to Idea Carver.
My name is Eduardo Garcia. I'm in 6th grade, and I go to Idea School, and I'm 12.
My name is Angelo Brown. I go to SA Prep, and I'm in 7th grade.
Hi, my name is Dwayne Jewell. I'm in 7th grade, and I go to SA Prep.
Martin Luther King is important to me because he fought for our civil rights.
Martin Luther King Jr. is important to me because he wanted to bring peace everywhere and stop hatred.
MLK is important to me because he had a dream of all people to love each other and be kind.
He's important to me because he fought for our education and a nice neighborhood.
Martin Luther King Jr. was a pastor and a civil rights hero who fought for justice and equal rights for all people.
My message for Martin Luther King is he made me go to the same school as any other race.
He helped us from not being mean to each other and not making fun of people just because the way they look.
I'm gonna make sure his dream lives through me by being kind and helpful with people.
I'm gonna make sure his dream lives on through me by being kind and being helpful to others.
What inspired me to make this artwork was the Martin Luther King speech, "I Have a Dream," when he talks about how everyone is created equally and are all God's children, no matter the skin color, the religion, or the nationality.
My name is Myron Anderson, and I am the Vice President for Inclusive Excellence at the University of Texas at San Antonio. It is my pleasure to be a part of San Antonio's MLK Jr. Virtual March to honor and recognize one of the most influential leaders of the 20th century, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King worked brilliantly with others to help galvanize the nation to strive for equal rights and raise public consciousness of the civil rights movement. Once more, he was passionate about the power of education. He once said, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." This resonates with me as I have seen the intersection of these ideals and how they have served as inflection points to transform lives. Dr. King's message is more significant now than ever, and I feel so fortunate to witness the impact of his work among UTSA's faculty, staff, students, and alumni on a daily basis. Thank you.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was deeply committed to serving others and helping foster a more just society. Every year, thousands of people across the United States come together in San Antonio to honor Dr. King through service projects, scholarship opportunities, and worship services. And it gives me great pride to offer my congratulations to the 2021 Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship recipients. Remember, we wouldn't have the Civil Rights Act without Dr. King's work. We wouldn't have the Voting Rights Act either. His vision and his words are as powerful today as they were during his lifetime. And our nation is counting on your generation to continue pushing Dr. King's dream forward. We still haven't reached the mountaintop, but it is within your grasp if you stay focused and follow his footsteps. The high school students awarded scholarships this year made it through a rigorous scholarship application process. They all demonstrated superior academic achievement, extracurricular leadership, and community service. Well done, students. I also want to commend the community and donors for their strong commitment to ensuring that the shortfalls in funding to colleges don't affect the educational opportunities provided to the deserving high school seniors in Bexar County. I'm deeply grateful for their support. Additionally, thank you to the 2021 MLK Commission, the MLK Scholarship Committee, and the application reviewers led by Dr. George Williams, the MLK Scholarship Program Chair. Now, I extend this challenge to high school seniors. Continue the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Be a servant and leader in your community, and the world will be a better place for your contributions.
Hello, my name is Sasha Tanzut-Shirongo, and I am currently a freshman planning to study neuroscience and comparative literature at Harvard University as a pre-medical student. I am so incredibly honored to be a lucky recipient of the MLK Scholarship, which has really helped fund this invaluable college education that has not only allowed me to grow as both a student, but also as a young adult. I've also really been able to pursue all of my academic and extracurricular interests, ranging from joining a graphic design agency to conducting neuroscience research at a lab, all without having to worry too much about my financial situation. I also want to say that I'm so honored to be part of this fiercely dedicated group of students who are also lucky recipients of this award and are also incredibly passionate and inspiring, and from my local community as well. So I'm so thankful to be part of that. And lastly, I just wanted to thank the MLK Scholarship Committee once again for selecting me as a recipient and helping me fund the beginning of my college education journey. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Khalil Davis, a recipient of the MLK Scholarship and a current student at the University of Texas at Austin. I would like to formally thank the MLK Scholarship Commission for providing scholarship funds that not only allow me to attend my dream school, but allow me to attend my dream school financially free. Without the funds, I don't know if I would love San Antonio or even go to the university of this magnitude. Their vision of focusing on the youth and providing education warms my heart, and I can graduate knowing that it helped me fulfill my greatest dream. Thank you.
Good morning. We're the presidents of the Divine Nine organizations here in San Antonio, Texas. We were all founded on brotherhood, sisterhood, education, and community service for all. We are here celebrating the Martin Luther King anniversary once again, and we certainly hope that everyone will continue to remember him, his service, and what he stood for in the United States and in the world. All of our organizations are still pertinent. Most of us were founded anywhere from 1906 all the way up to 1996. We are still very important to our children, our children's children, and making sure there's a foundation for the African American community to grow and to be together. You sometimes hear that there is some rivalry between us, and sure, there's some fun rivalry, but we all stand together, and that is what's important for us to convey to the African American community. We are all together for the same reason.
Hi, my name is Alicia Perry, and I am board trustee for the SAISD Independent School District, representing District 2. I am here with my fabulous campus leaders, and we're here to celebrate the MLK March. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have it in person this year. However, we can still share all of the celebrations that Dr. King did for our community. The community can help us in our endeavors to ensure that our children are successful by engaging with any of our campus leaders, coming in and volunteering time. Of course, we know that it's virtual learning right now, so all the support that our children can get right now is very imperative to the success of their futures. We want to wish you a happy MLK Day. Remember, it's a day on, not a day off.
My name is Ali Wallace. I'm a photographer for the Martin Luther King March and Rally. I've been with the organization for some 35 years, documenting the march. Some time ago, my wife and I, both of us had the virus. Well, I didn't think I had the virus. They told me, Mr. Wallace, you have pneumonia, so they gave me some pills to go home. But my wife, she was blind, plus she had dementia, and I was more or less her caregivers. So they decided to take her to the hospice. And they asked me, Mr. Wallace, you want to see your wife before we take her? And I said, yes. And of course, they took me up to where she was. She was in like a glass dome. And I called her name. She opened her eyes and looked at me and smiled. Now remember, my wife had been blind for some 15 years. And 3 days, 3 times a day, I would have to give her eye drops to keep her eyes clear. Now she's looking at me, and I'm not knowing what it was all about, but she smiled and closed her eyes, not knowing that would be the last time I would see her. They called an Uber to take me home. My daughter came by the house and said, Dad, you don't look too well. And she took me back to the hospital, and they checked me again. They said, no, you got the virus. And I was in the hospital unconscious for 4 days. And finally, I asked my daughter, I said, well, what happened? She said, Dad, you almost died. And on the 4th day or the 5th day, they gave you convalescent plasma, and they got your body back under control. They took good care of me for 4 weeks and got me healed. And at the time, I was 85 years old, and don't know why, but God rescued me. I tell everybody that I see that it's very imperative that you wear your mask, get your shots, whatever it takes to keep from getting the virus, because it has no respect of color, race, or anything.
Hello, my name is Claude Jacob, and I'm the director of the San Antonio Metropolitan Health District. The San Antonio Metropolitan Health District joins the community in honoring the life of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is important to honor the legacy of his work and social justice mission by addressing racism as a public health crisis. Metro Health is also happy to partner with San Antonio's MLK Jr. Commission to host a COVID-19 vaccine and testing clinic today, January 17th, at Pittman Sullivan Park. Meanwhile, we'd like to offer some important reminders and safety tips as San Antonio continues to respond to this global pandemic. COVID vaccines are now available to individuals 5 and older at our Alamo Dome drive-through clinic and vaccine pop-up clinics throughout the community. Getting vaccinated is the best way to protect yourself and your loved ones from serious illness or hospitalization. We also have 6 new mass testing sites across the city just down the road at St. Philip's College. Get tested if you have symptoms of COVID-19, and please stay home if you're sick. Help keep San Antonio safe by getting fully vaccinated and boosted. And please mask up regardless of your vaccination status, especially in crowded or indoor spaces. Metro Health is now offering the Pfizer COVID-19 booster to individuals 12 to 15, following the recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC. For a list of no-cost testing locations or pop-up clinics, please visit covid19.sanantonio.gov or call 311. Thank you for your service to community today. Today is a day on, not a day off.
In my lifetime, a mere 59 years, African Americans in this country have moved from segregation and Jim Crow to the State House and the White House. As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. openly dreamed of a world in which people are measured not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their heart. Still, we march every day. Despite the atrocities of COVID-19, the 2020 election cycle saw the greatest electoral victories for the causes of not merely equality, but in fact equity. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Just as our light continues to shine through in this 2022 virtual march, when COVID once again has prevented us from showing our strength in numbers, let us let that light shine through, now even stronger. As we push onward through hate, through injustice, and through those voices who seek to silence the righteous, let us march every day. Let us march onward to the vision of social health, environmental, criminal, and economic justice that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself was unable to realize due to his own light being extinguished far too soon. Let us march every day, not with fear of our neighbor, but with love of this great and noble cause. Let us march every day, knowing that a better day, a better life, a better world is not merely a dream, but is a summit on the mount that we will reach. We are not afraid of a little good trouble in the words of the great Congressman John Lewis. As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King asked some 58 years ago, as the Reverend R.A. Callis asked some 54 years ago, I humbly ask of you, let us march every day. Don't wait until this one holiday. For one day on a bridge, Dr. King had to turn the crowd around to save lives. But they came back with a new strategy and a new resolve and got the Voting Rights Act passed. We must now do the same. Voting rights are still our fight. Thank you.